Is it starting to thunder?
Can you hear it? Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Just saw some lightning, yeah.
Oh, you're going downstairs? Okay, I'm gonna turn this TV off. I gotta. Getting a little comfy.
Kate, our council, or shoot, I forgot what kind of meeting I'm at tonight. Our commissioner president is just walking in now, so we'll be starting here in a few minutes.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you.
You don't leave right afterwards because I got stuff to go through with you.
All right, we call meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Travis, he's on Zoom.
I had a lot of persistence requests for anything.
Yeah. Okay.
No, mute everybody but Travis.
Travis, do you want to explain what we're doing here tonight?
So we are looking at outsourcing our billing after Mary Lynn's recent retirement. There was some discussion that we could possibly boost our revenue. Looked at a few different options as far as billing goes. I really heard a lot of great things about Acumed, who is with us tonight. And I'm sure they can explain more on pricing and what to do from here.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Malassi. I asked our Vice President, Terry Johnson, to join us tonight as well. Really appreciate the opportunity to join you tonight. And also a special thanks to Rachel and Travis for their efforts to date. Perhaps you've seen the PowerPoint I put together that Rachel may have passed around. I'm not sure. I'd like to keep my intro brief just to keep you awake, and then Terry and I will be here for any questions that you have. I'd like to start just a little bit about our history. We were incorporated in 1989 to provide EMS billing and consultation services to municipal-based providers. Today, we proudly serve 251 clients. 61 of those are in Indiana. Many of those are your neighboring communities and 9 other county providers across the state. Our mission has always been to optimize revenue compliantly and help you reduce your in-house costs. We employ 83 people at Acumed, long tenured, compassionate, dedicated folks, dedicated to, satisfying the stakeholders in the chain of patient care. We've never had a HIPAA breach or billing violation since our inception, which is again 1989. We work hard each and every day for every client that we have, and we certainly welcome the opportunity to partner with Starke County. So that said, unless you have something to add, hopefully you can either review the PowerPoint or we're ready for any questions that you might have.
Other than billing service, Kate, can you touch on just briefly that, your compliance, that you make sure that we're in compliance with Medicare, Medicaid, and also I think there's legal services available too as well, right?
Yeah, as a part of our value add, we're SOC 1 Type 2 certified for business organization. I know that was really a highlight for you, Rachel. We employ the services of Page, Wolfberg, and Worth, which is a national EMS law attorney group. So they do our external audits. They're also the hosts of our seminars and webinars. They test the aptitude of our staff. So for a life of a contract with the Acumed, you have access to the law attorney group. Say there's a question and maybe a medic posted something silly on Facebook. So just get a hold of us and we'll talk that through with you and with them. I think the value adds that we bring to the table, in addition to the very attractive pricing that we offered you, really our goal is to help you reduce those in-house costs. If you're migrating again away from this in-house billing platform, you're going to do away with the cost for that billing software, support services, clearinghouse costs, personnel, wages, postage, the list just goes on and on. So the value adds we bring to the table, coupled with the reduction in in-house costs and this 5% we're offering you, which is based on what we collect, not what we bill, I think it'll position the county to fare very nicely.
So Travis will be paying for this he is not going to hire a part-timer to replace Nancy, who took the full-time position. So he's going to pay for this out of that. There's no additional cost to his department.
Because I know we've been briefed on 2 different billing systems. They've got an older system that has some old bills in it, and then the newer system that they're using now. Will this incorporate their older billing items as well as what they're doing currently? Travis, have you dipped into that at all?
That would probably be a question for Terry. Typically, there's a date where you cease billing operations and we start the billing operations. So typically Acumed will work accounts that haven't been processed by the county. There's been some instances where Terry has made the decision to look at aged receivables, but that's a case-by-case basis. So I'll let Terry speak on that.
Yeah, we can definitely take a look at your AR and see where most of that information lies, to see if it's better to push some of the, self-pay onto a collection agency, or if we can give some kind of, at least analysis or suggestions on what to do with it. Typically, we don't do the old cleanup. There's a lot of reasons based on the billing that's taken place. If it's not, you can run into some problems, right? With if it's not compliant or if it's different codes that should have been used. It's quite the tedious task to clean up, especially transition into our billing system, since I'm not quite sure which system you guys use to do the billing. Are you aware of that? Of which the system was?
I believe we use Striker, don't we, Travis?
Yeah, we use Striker. So we use Health EMS Manager. That would be another portion that I guess we would save money on. And Rachel and I have talked about as far as we pay about $816 a month, what we have budgeted in. That would go away because that's the actual billing software that we use. I believe it's through RevNet. That would be, almost $10,000 a year as well that we could put towards paying or outsourcing with Acumed or any other company that you guys would choose. As far as the old billing goes, that old system would be that DataMed 32, because we just switched to, they were out of compliance as of a few years ago. That's why we had to switch to that Striker program that we currently use. We've had pretty good success with it, but as far as the old stuff goes, I guess that would be, like they said, a case-to-case basis. I guess I can understand why they wouldn't want to necessarily pick that up, because they don't know whether we were compliant. Or those type of things with the coding. So yeah.
But you've got a plan to take care of that.
I would say Nancy could continue taking care of the old accounts, and then they could take care of any new accounts from, like they said, like let's say October 1 or whatever date it's agreed upon, or anything like that. So I think that would be the best solution. From there, we could kind of handle our stuff that we're already doing, and eventually, just like you see with our monthly reports, that would continue to dwindle down until it was completely done, and we would not have to worry about that anymore, and they would take everything forward.
That was the answer I was fishing for. You guys have anything else?
No.
Marty, do you have anything you'd like to?
I have a couple of questions. I think it's probably for you, Kate. I mean, one of the things I noticed in the contract is that, and then this is for you too, Travis. Maybe you can weigh in on what the impact of this would be. One of the terms states that if the county were to waive or essentially decide to not charge for a billable service, that Starke County would still owe the 5% fees refunded or waived. I'm sorry, yeah, fees refunded or waived would still generate 5% fee for Acumed, assuming that Acumed wasn't at fault. And I'm not really having a problem with that term, but I wondered, Travis, what the impact would that be? Do you know how many fees are refunded or waived in a typical year?
Well, we go, the biggest thing would be that we don't bill for, that we still respond to, would be motor vehicle accidents. And any, let's say somebody passes out in a local business and they did not call 911. So it's kind of a third party call where they did not request the ambulance. So therefore we don't typically bill for that. And they say, they come to and they say, hey, I don't know what happened. I got real hot, real dizzy, passed out. But I don't want to go to the hospital. They did not call. So therefore we usually don't bill for those services. And then, our lift assists sometimes get a little hairy, whether we, you bill or not, or, go go pick a elderly female, male off the floor, you know, just a quick in-service call. But I don't see a whole lot of cases where we don't bill. Anytime we load that patient into the back of our ambulance, we're charging the loaded mileage and we're transporting them to the hospital. They should get a bill.
Okay, Kate, did you hear Travis's answer on that?
Yes.
Can you amplify on how that contract clause impacts those situations?
You know, I'm going to look at the language again. Our COO is really the body of these contracts. But if I'm understanding your question correctly, typically, if there's an incident that should not be billed, the county won't submit it to Acumed. Therefore, there would be no collection on that particular trip. Therefore, no fee to the county.
So yeah, that section, it is section 4D, and I kind of figured that was the actual practice, but I just the bare language of it, arguably anybody, like for example, his scenario where they go check on somebody or there's an elderly person that they don't end up billing, you don't even see those really, actually, is what you're saying.
Right. And one of the things we do early on is what we call pre-dispatch consultation. So we'll be fully aware of your charges, those fees. We'll know what your policies are, your ordinances. We go through your operation with a fine-tooth comb, make recommendations. I mean, there are agencies that do charge, say, for a refusal or treat no transport or lift assist. But if that's not the case at Starke County, then those aren't ones that are going to be submitted to Acumed for billing. So no fee attached.
Yeah, that makes sense. I got one other question.
Okay.
I appreciate your answer on that one. That sounds good. The other one, just a moment here, sorry. The other one is the 5-year duration of the contract. Is that negotiable, the amount of the initial term?
It is. The least we go is a 3-year. And the reason we do that is because the lion's share of our costs are incurred early into the contract. That gives us the ability to recoup those costs over the life of the contract.
I certainly understand why you do it. You know, I understand why you do it, but and I appreciate you saying, so you would consider a 3-year one. And now the board hasn't expressed that that's their opinion or anything, but 5 years is a little longer than the typical obligation that the board enters into. It doesn't mean that, of course, if they're happy after 3 years, it'll keep going, no doubt.
So they charge 5%.
Right.
Though on
Is it 5.5% if it's 3? Is that the deal, or do you charge the same amount if it's 3 years?
I believe it was. I believe that was the rate we gave. So, you know, I can offer the most attractive pricing for the longer term, which is a 5%. I think it's 5.5 for a 3-year. I believe so.
Do you know what the 4-year one is?
Oh, here it is. The last page.
Okay. Those answers make sense. Well, thank you. Those all make sense. I'm just leaving to the board what they want to do. Just wanted to inquire into those details.
Sure.
Travis, you gonna be here in 5 years?
I sure hope so.
Okay.
I can tell you for what it's worth, typically, Acumed client, when we onboard a new client, they opt for the 5-year. I think it makes it easier for them with change in administration at times, or commissioners or council members, and then they get the better rate. But honestly, you know, if you came back to me and said we need the 3-year term, then I'd go to the boss and get the contract rewritten and send it out to you. So.
That's all I've got. You guys got anything else?
Pretty good idea to do this, really. 5 seconds. Others.
So what's the best way to word the motion? Just move to grant permission to Travis to engage in Acumed for billing services.
I reviewed the contract, but interestingly,
Oh,
I didn't pay a lot of attention to who was the signatory.
I haven't seen that.
I read the contract
I
through.
think
and
Charlie just signed.
Yeah, just.
EMS. So I guess you would authorize them to enter into the contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract. Second document.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you. We really
Thank you.
appreciate your time. We look forward to working together.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Travis.
All right, Travis,
You're
Rachel,
welcome.
I'll probably be talking with you tomorrow.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, have a good
All right,
evening.
have a
Stay
good night, everybody. Stay
safe.
safe.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next up, Leslie.
Good evening.
Hey.
How is everyone tonight?
Good. Pretty
Good. So I sent you all earlier this morning a job description for an investigator. I have found complete funding through grant programming for an investigator position. And actually, I think the way this has worked out is pretty exciting. HealthLink has been partnering with a lot of organizations in the county, providing funding and people just to help with the ongoing problems that we have in our community in terms of the opioid epidemic. And after thinking through some of the things that we talked about in meetings in terms of like the overdose fatality review meetings and that sort of thing, HealthLink was a source that I hadn't considered in terms of funding and grant funding and that all that good stuff. And in conversations with representatives, they have told me that they can fully fund an investigator position. The position would be funded up to $5,700 per month. And so based upon my calculations for a full-time salary with benefits, that would work for my office. And so this position would work with within my office, but would work with all of the departments and would work closely with overdose cases, would work with the family members who are still surviving, and would also work to investigate those overdose cases. And I know that the biggest issue for getting this position approved has been having a funding source. And if you all approve of this position, I am told by HealthLink I will have some type of memorandum of understanding in terms of funding this in my email tomorrow. So I would just ask that you all approve this position based upon the job description that was sent out.
So how long is that funding for 1 year? Or
Yes. So the funding is it's annually funded. It starts in September, and then the grant cycle starts again in February, and then it would start, the funding would be available in September of 2022. So right now, the money that is available to me is from basically now until September of 2022. My conversations with HealthLink have been that while the funding isn't guaranteed, it's probably not going anywhere because of how problematic the opioid epidemic is. And it is a federal fund. It's federal funding. It's not state funded. So there's no reason to think that it's not going to be available next year, but it may not be. And so in the job description at the bottom, it does say in there that, or it does read that the position is funded by a grant and is based upon grant funding availability. And so anyone who takes this position, it would be very clear that this position may not be there if grant funding is not available.
Sounds like a similar situation to the deputy we approved for the sheriff earlier this year.
Actually, it's exactly the same. And that's what prompted me to ask HealthLink. What prompted me to ask them and what I'm going to ask for next with my victims advocate was based upon the monies that came in for specifically the social work position for the sheriff's department. There is money out there for people to be of support for overdose situations and that sort of thing. And so even though the money may, there's no guarantee, but we think it's going to be there for years to come because of the nature of the opioid crisis. And I'm sorry to cut you off, Mark.
No, that's
But
all right. I don't see the current federal administration curtailing their spending in this matter anytime soon. So, yeah, I'm okay with going forward with this.
I am too.
Ryan?
Yeah.
So I'll make the motion that we approve the investigator position at the prosecutor's office. So long as the grant funding is received.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Leslie, I'll put you on the agenda for the council on September 20th, 5:30 PM.
awesome, thank you. And then Rachel, do I have to talk about the increase for the victim advocate here, or is it just the council?
It's just the council.
Okay, you know how I am about this stuff, so.
Yeah. It's just the council, but if you want to talk to me before that,
I will.
kind of give you an idea of what they're going to say.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you, Renee Green's not here. Do you want to talk about it or move on?
We need more information.
Yeah, we can dig into this more.
Yeah, I'll contact. Do you know about the situation, Charlie?
Not really.
So, this is Kings Lake near Monterey, near Horse Lake.
Okay.
And there's very few roads in here that are actually county roads.
Right.
Most of them are private.
Mhm.
Well, years ago, when my dad was superintendent, he made a agreement with Tommy Williams
Okay.
that, because they had a bad dumping problem, like trash dumping problem back there, that it was okay that he put gates up on the private roads. Well, I guess this came up again to the commissioners in 2009, and they decided, yeah, you can keep the gates up as long as you give the property owners keys to get back to their property. Well, from what I understand with Renee, Tommy's putting more gates up, like more than they used to be. Because Tommy owns most of the property back there, but it's not all of it. But I haven't got a chance to talk to Tommy and see if that's the case or not, so I need to do that.
Yeah, I think that's, we just move from there with that. Guess we can possibly talk about it at the next meeting, so
Maybe
find more out.
for the, maybe Dan could go check it out too, like the parts that are county roads.
Right.
See what the gate situation looks like. Would you mind doing that?
I can do that.
That's Kings Lake. It's in North Bend.
Is there a motion to approve the vendor claims in the amount of $704,632.96?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion to approve the payroll claims in the amount of $241,669.37.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye. I love how each one is, we're ordered differently in each one, so we really have to pay attention to what he's signing.
That's great.
Motion to approve the payroll, this payroll claim in the amount of $245,612.88.
I'll move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the minutes from Monday, August 16th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have COVID pay.
I've had several inquiries about whether or not you're gonna bring back the COVID pay. So the federal, as you know, the federal government stopped their COVID pay December 31st, 2020. You guys extended it, basically our own county policy, till the end of the second quarter, which was June 30th.
Mhm.
And department heads want to know if you're gonna bring back the pay again. To me, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, because like the federal guidelines, you had whether the daycare was closed, they got COVID pay. If the school was closed, they got COVID pay. If they had to be quarantined, they got COVID pay. If they were positive, they got COVID pay. But it was one and done. You couldn't have it over and over and over again. So like, if you did bring it back, is this like, like the people who have already used it, do they get it again? I don't know. This isn't gonna go away.
Right. Yeah, we can't just keep jumping back into this.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, at what point do we start treating this like we would any other workplace illness?
Just like the flu.
Yeah. You know, because, and this is just my personal opinion. I'm not saying this to create policy right here, but, you know, with the vaccine available, anyone who's worried about potentially dying from COVID, missing work because of COVID, or having long-term chronic conditions from exposure to COVID should get the vaccine. And
That was actually another question. The one, it's only been like 2 departments that have asked me, but they did ask, well, if we didn't get the vaccine, would we still get COVID pay? Or if we did get the vaccine, would we still get COVID pay?
I think we just stay with, again, just my opinion. We'll have to all agree on what to actually do, but we go back to our normal, workplace illness policies.
I'd agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, that's really the best option.
Yeah, because it gets hairy. Like you said, with it having been one and done, and then we gotta just decide if we're gonna go with all the old federal options and get that sorted out. And I don't think your office wants all that extra logistics, because we've already thrown a lot of extra logistics to you this year.
I can tell you that most of the counties are not, they've done it like through the second quarter
Yeah.
and they're not doing it
Mhm.
here.
Marty, thoughts?
Can't add anything to what you said.
Okay. Oh, you popped up over there like.
No, I just paying attention.
Okay.
Okay. Nothing else on that then. Then we got the ordinance for basically Zoom meetings.
Yeah, they, like the governor, I don't know when it ended, but when the whole,
When the emergency
Emergency
declaration expired,
declaration
then
expired.
actually that expired.
yeah, so like if
I
you
thought he
still,
just extended something again.
Okay.
I don't know if it would pertain to the Zoom stuff though, like if.
Well, wasn't there a separate state law that went into effect?
Well, that's what this is about, I think.
Okay.
That's actually what this implements,
Okay.
which is somewhat, I mean, if you read through that, it's somewhat,
It's been a while since I read it, but yeah.
yeah, it does provide, it provides for the option for, teleconferencing, but it has about 15 different exceptions and sub policies and
Yeah.
and it's a little complicated. I think it's still probably useful, but I and it isn't just for it actually is not specifically a COVID related thing. I think it's more that it's a recognition that teleconferencing can be useful to allow participation, and it includes things like you can only do it you have a limited number of times you can do it, a limited number of times in a row you can do it. You can't do it for like things like budgets or certain critical functions. So every time we want to use that, we're going to have to refer to that to make sure. But it doesn't it doesn't bother me. I just want you to realize it is actually got a lot of exceptions, and so the scope of this is not as broad as you might think.
Okay.
Would that be a fair way to
Yeah,
describe it?
It's just better than having nothing in place.
Right. You can, well, one thing it does allow, for example, is if you want to if you're on vacation, for example, you can still take a minute and participate in the meeting remotely and still vote.
Mhm.
And I think it's good for that because I don't think you should have to,
But you still have to have a quorum though.
well, it counts for the quorum if you have, well, person in your case, you only got 3 people on your board, so it kind of limits it. You can only have one person, really one person can be remote is what it was. Two can't be remote at the same time, unless there's an emergency declared, and then that rule doesn't apply. So that it's a fairly complicated thing, but it does expand your capability of participating in meetings.
So does this just cover our meetings or all?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is not an ordinance. This is a resolution declaring the policy of your board, and also any board that you, any ad hoc committee or board that you have exclusive rights to appoint. There may be a couple of those. You see what I'm saying? If you have a working group, for example, that you totally appoint, then it applies to them too.
Yeah.
But if you
So the
only
simple way to put that is any board that we appoint all the members.
exclusively, yes,
Yes.
right, yeah. So it has, it can, I'll prepare a similar one for the council. And the words of this, if you want to look at and think about things that maybe you'd like to do differently, you could ask me and I will, but I didn't go out and try to craft because I didn't want to guess what you wanted exactly.
Yeah.
So it's modeled after Marshall County, but not entirely, but close.
What do you guys want to do? Adopt it?
I would think so.
You could always amend it later. It's a little less formal than an
I
ordinance.
don't see a downside to
No.
adopting.
The only downside is it's a little complicated, so we're gonna make sure that we follow our own rule here.
Right.
Only if one of them's online, right?
Right, you're always good, you're always fine with one person being online, but but beware of one person being online repeatedly unless they have a good reason. If you're like a military service or you're ill or you're dealing with a family problem, you can have more in a row, but just it's not. And also, once again, there are certain critical functions like budgets and that sort of thing that require you to vote in person. But once again, if you had 3 of you, 2 are here, 1 was online, that person could still participate in discussion. They just wouldn't be able to vote. So for that on that issue, right?
So your motion to adopt this resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
And think about it as you use it, and, we can amend it easily. It's not that complicated to amend, I don't think, but I'll have to review the statute to make sure we can do that.
You got anything else, Mark?
No, I don't.
Brian? Marty? Rachel? Dan, do you have anything?
I have a couple things we need to talk about.
Come on up here.
The discussion of the crew leader has to be brought up. So we want to reinstate a crew leader at the highway department to help sustain the workforce.
Yeah, if that's what you think you need to run the department effectively, then I support it.
Sounds good.
So is that a motion?
Make a motion to create a crew leader position
You already have it.
or
Just
reinstate it, whatever, yeah.
Second. All those in favor, aye.
I was with you too, Mark. I met with the director about it. It made the most sense just to do it that way.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. I'm asking permission. We have some signs around the county that just say slow. What does slow mean? I'm sure it's different for you as it is for you. So we'd like to remove those slow signs and replace them with 35 mile per hour.
Is that our, where those signs are, is that already been designated as that being the speed limit in that area?
I thought that was the problem. We don't have any speed ordinances and that's.
See, that's, and this is a process I really don't understand.
Well,
I haven't dived into yet.
usually, now I'm not gonna say this is, usually you have some kind of engineering basis for setting a speed limit. And, I think, I don't know that,
Speed limit signs are different than warning signs. That's a
Right.
warning sign. That
Right.
means slow down because deer might jump out, kids might jump out, whatever else.
Right.
There's a
It's-
purpose.
Yeah, a general slow sign, I would equate to, something a little more general than like, a deer warning sign, or, I've seen the slow deaf child signs.
Right.
It's in that same category, so I don't know that we would necessarily need to change that.
If you want to look into it, you can always have Laura Slusher do an engineering study from LTAP. They're free.
yeah, and I recommend that you do that. If you want to put a number on there, it should be backed by an engineering study or
Yeah.
weirdly enough, that could cause liability if you don't have that.
Yeah.
Usually,
There's
like-
2 or 3 signs in there that say 30 mile an hour. If they don't go 60, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So no matter what it is, Dan, this, having her looking in slow signs or speed limit or intersections, she'll come up with a finding and then you present those findings to the commissioners and then it's up to the board whether or not they want to change it according to her finding.
Okay.
But warning signs do have their place.
Yeah.
Those triangulated warning signs are important.
Okay. Today our phones acted up terrible out there at the barn, and it happens from some time to time. And the IT guy that we have, I can't think of his name. Is it
Richard.
Richard.
Yeah.
Said that this has been an ongoing problem and we need to update the facility.
I thought those got updated while you were there.
Not the phone, it's not the towers.
No, yeah, it's
to
the
do with
same, it's the
towers.
same old wireless link from years ago.
And the highway department has always paid for their own, so you'd have to pay for it out of your budget unless they would decide otherwise.
Yeah. Cause yeah, it's just a wireless link between them and I think it's at the courthouse here.
Yeah, there's a tower here and at the sheriff's department. There's
Yeah,
the three.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's just a point link between the courthouse and the sheriff's department, or I don't think they're going all the way from the highway to the sheriff's department.
You should have money we can move around. I mean, we can look at it. I don't know how much does he tell you how much it's gonna
No,
cost?
he didn't.
Right, I would find out from him how much it's gonna cost.
Yeah,
and see
the
if-
cost of it.
Yeah, well, even when I was in that spot, we didn't want to touch it because it is an old system and easy to follow up.
I know it affects our phones and the computers.
Yeah,
Mhm.
everything goes through that
Everything
one
is
link.
tied to it, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it would be nice to find a way to get a redundant link.
And when it
out
rains,
there.
it's worse, just saying.
But yeah, because it's wireless.
It's wireless,
That's why, you know, with it, when they talk about broadband initiatives, I don't support the terrestrial wireless as a solution because it really isn't. You know, it's a radio signal subject to all the interference that any radio signals come in have.
It's always better to plug it in.
Yeah.
It always works better.
Yeah.
Okay, and then today I sent you guys an email about the solar farm. It's a map of where the solar farms are going in by Bass Lake. Because they've contacted me about the road usage out there. And I'm gonna say a third of the roads are gravel.
Yeah, I would say in that area, yeah.
And then there's one new road that went in 2 years ago, 800 south from 35, about a mile in. But the rest of the roads are all cracking. They're gonna need chip seal.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be some money damage done to those roads, without a doubt, so.
Right.
Well, you had a road, I mean, you should have in your files a use agreement that was done with,
NIPSCO,
what's that?
with NIPSCO.
Yeah, with NIPSCO when they put in the power lines,
I tell you what,
and that should be,
we had to videotape the roads every
Right.
single week to prove that they did damage to it, otherwise NIPSCO wasn't gonna pay.
they,
So-
yeah, you better have it totally nailed
Mhm.
down. I mean, but I think that procedure and that, you know, that documentation is a good place to start in doing this. You get, you know, you definitely gotta be able to prove it, you know. It's part of our like agreement with them also, but we need the specific terms of
We should
that.
ask them to bond it. I mean, you know.
Well, yeah, NIPSCO, they had to bond
Right,
themselves
that's
too.
what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the solar folks, they should
Yeah.
bond it also.
Right.
Still, you have to prove that they
Oh, of
damaged the
course.
roadways.
You gotta have,
Right,
get
but I mean, if they
documented.
bond it, your money's already there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, this and a few other details, I thought we'd still need to nail down officially.
Mhm.
Before, and I'm pretty sure they're planning on doing a groundbreaking in middle of next month. So I don't know, do we need to get this going and have this
Well,
done before
we
they
should
break ground,
have,
or?
yeah, we need to get
Yeah.
final documents going with them, so.
Are you in
And I just
contact
talked
with
to
them
Nick
about
the
the
other day,
roads?
I mean, you know, he's still
Are you
very.
meeting with them?
So we
soon?
probably need to set up some meetings to get that done, yeah.
Because there's that, and then there was, I know there was mention of a bond at one of the early meetings, I think I went to out at Bass Lake. I think it was like their homeowners association meeting or something, but yeah, they mentioned having to do some sort of bond, and then, you know, there was the issue with the agricultural irrigation pumps and routing those,
Yeah.
and I didn't know where we would tie that into an agreement
Crossing the road.
after we got the zoning done. You know, there was still more paperwork to be gone through.
We
and
have the incentives package too, that is, you know, that we've had, you know, we have an agreement on, but we have to get the details.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
at what point are we gonna flesh all this out?
Soon, I hope.
Well, here's something that came up on the agenda for the planning commission. There were like 8 or 9 more parcels of property to be rezoned from residential.
For this same project?
Yes, same project.
Not the second project that's phase
Supposed to
2
be
of
this one, that mammoth. And I'm like, why is that even on our agenda for the planning commission?
Well, that's because it goes to you and you make a recommendation to us.
Yeah, but bad enough the first one, you know, and they're just gonna keep asking and asking.
Well, don't forget though, Brian, that's driven by the property owners. There were several holdouts over
That's
there.
true.
Changed their minds now,
Yeah,
you know, and so that's driven by them. I mean, you know, they're you know, they can't, Starke LLC can't really help that part of it. They tried to, you know.
No, they can't apply until they have the owner. We went through that with them until the owner is on. The owner has to be an applicant, which only makes sense.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you will see that coming in, you know, both have mentioned they were busy with a lot of that stuff, but it's gonna slow down once they're all on board. It's not gonna be bombarding that office anymore. But, you know, for now, you got people that are going, oh, I wanna make a few bucks off that too. And,
The highway superintendent for White County is gonna be here Thursday. And he has quite a bit of experience dealing with the wind farms. And he has an 800-acre solar farm in his county. So he's volunteered to help me through this process. So I feel pretty confident that this guy will.
Please share the contract, you know, the agreement with my office, and we'll work with you on that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm here for.
Can you amend the crew leader motion to be retroactive to 9/5 so I don't have to change this pay in the middle of the pay period?
So amended.
Thanks. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the last thing, we're gonna start chip sealing on Thursday. We're gonna do a trial run with one tanker of the emulsion. So we should be able to do about a half mile on Thursday and make sure all the equipment's functioning, because the new distributor truck has not shown up yet and is not gonna show up in time. It's waiting on the little chips. So we're going with the old truck, and we went through it last week. I had Etmeyer out to go through it. That's part of the reason why the superintendent from White County is coming up. He's gonna bring his distributor operator up, since we have no one with any experience.
That's nice. I've rode the chipper a few times. Do you want me to come out?
Sure.
You volunteer to work, come put you to work.
Yeah, we don't turn anybody away.
You may not be volunteering to do the job you think you are, but you'll get put to work.
Okay, so that's all I have. I did contact the gentleman on 700 South that's been pushing to get his road done, and I informed him next week we'll be there one day next week to take care of that.
All right, Dan, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Terry, you got anything for us? Dave?
Marty, when we look at that ordinance for Zoom meetings during the council meeting, we could amend that on the fly, can't we, and then approve it with amendments?
Well,
Because I think
it's a policy. It's a policy, actually, right? Yeah,
he's got our own policy.
The only thing is we gotta make sure that the policy is not out of compliance with the statute, so I'd have to
Right.
check that, right?
Right.
But yeah, I don't think amending that is as formal as an ordinance, because it has no impact, it has no, as long as you're in compliance with the state law, it has no impact on the public, it's purely your internal function, right?
Yeah.
And it's authorized by statute, so yes, you could amend it, you know, obviously you couldn't amend it in such a way as to be, you know, prejudicial to anybody's personal interests or anything like that.
Right.
You know. So think about it, you know, and what you wanted to say, because it's helpful if I can look at it in advance and say whether you can do that or not. It's, as you can see, it's a little, I mean, if you look at theirs, it's a little complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, not terribly, but
Yeah, I think we can make it a little less complicated, actually.
you could probably make it a little less complicated, yes. Well, one thing that's a little different with the council too, because you have more people. And so, you know, you don't have this thing where you know, two is a quorum, if you see what I'm saying.
Right.
At the end, the 3-person board has certain, like, you know, awkward aspects.
Yes, you got Dave?
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, since you're here, and I haven't heard anything recently, anything new from the communications committee on the radio issues?
Thanks for asking, good question. So we had J&K out doing PMs all week last week, some things were improved. I'm in the middle of doing some testing from the EMA department right now. And Bass Lake is saying that they're having some issues, but several of their pages, a couple of guys didn't get the page. It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But when one person gets it, it means it worked. You know, so I'm doing some testing on that. And things have gotten moderately better, but this Eric Stevenson that's come aboard with them is excellent to work with. He's much better, much more approachable. So we've had a lot of things that have been improved. Charlie, I had contacted Charlie about an emergency fix that we needed for a cooler out in Judson, and we got that straightened out. So they're working with us. They're working a lot better now.
And are we getting more reports back from the fire departments on when they see issues?
Yeah. And actually, everybody has said that they're really happy, including J&K, with what we set up with the communications meeting, how it goes through the fire chief or me to Jana, and Jana contacts J&K. They're super happy now too, a lot less tension going on. We still have to work out in Washington Township, some issues. And figure some things out there, but it's gotten a lot better. In fact, one of the things I asked Eric to do is, and Matt had talked about this, but I thought, well, J&K's got trade in equipment too, is setting up a pager that has all 7 fire department tones on it. So that way, if we get a complaint, I can go test it immediately, not have to wait on J&K or dispatch, and it saves them a little bit of road work too. And that's another alternative.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So.
Thank
And then, we've got a meeting tomorrow with the principal and superintendent from North Judson. We've been working on the LAPC side about putting a countywide drill together in October. But one of the things we're doing with each school is linking communications with the schools, because they have their own internal communications capability. But one of the things I learned at one of the EMA meetings I went to in the spring was that in every county, there's no understanding of how that school links with the county. So that's one of the things we want to test in our exercise, but I'm also going around to the different principals and meeting with their resource officer to get, understand, what's going on, make sure the state knows we have all the frequencies and all that's lined up. Actually, like I said, I'm going to North Judson tomorrow afternoon. And normally Hannah's joining me, but she's out sick right now, so we got to keep the ball rolling. So she'll be working with us by a telephone line there.
Thanks for all your effort. Appreciate it.
Kenny, you got anything for us?
Come on, Kenny, bring it on.
No further business, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Don't leave.